Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited. I am Adriana Ramirez with Connecticut Family Support Network, and we are very happy today to be able to partner with Carter and DDS, and we also have Shannon O'Brien from DDS with us today. We're going to be talking about DSP and the Trusted Messenger Forum, and DSP is the Direct Support Professionals. A little housekeeping. We will save the Q&A section for the end of the presentation as we are recording this and uploading it to our YouTube channel later. There will be a survey at the end being when you either, if you have to leave early, as soon as you close or I close Zoom, there is going to be a survey popping up. We really, truly, all of us appreciate if you could take a minute or two to answer that, because that helps us see how the presentation went and other future topics that we may want to have based on your input. If you have any questions that you think of right away, feel free to put them in the chat because I will be looking at those later as well when it's time for Q&A. So if you don't feel comfortable, you can put those questions in Q&A as well. So with that, I want to welcome Carter Johnson and Shannon O'Brien today with us. We're very excited to hear about this Trusted Messenger Forum campaign. So I will hand it over to Carter.
Thank you so much. And we really appreciate this opportunity to share this information. You know, you guys know better than anyone, you know, the need to find candidates for these roles. You know, a lot of opportunity for folks to start a career in this field. DSP is a great place to start, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The purpose of this session is to give you guys information about, you know, what a DSP is, what it's not, and then sort of the tools and the messages to go out into the community and talk to people about this opportunity, this career path. People are more likely to hear and retain information if they get it from somebody they know and trust, and that's you guys. So that's really the purpose of your participation. And we're really excited to share some of this information. I'm going to try and make this not super boring for you and read slides to you. You guys are all able to, and we were going to share this deck with you after. We're also going to share a toolkit of materials, posters, you know, flyers, emails, social media, all kinds of cool stuff that you can use and brand yourselves to share this information and get it out there. So we, first of all, want to thank you for being here and for helping us get this information out. And hopefully you'll find this to be helpful. So how do we see your role? It's really a three-legged stool, right? The state has a role to provide resources for services and to, you know, to make it easy for you guys to find. We're going to show you the website at the end. So you can see where all of these jobs are housed. Then there's the role of the, you know, the community providers who, you know, who have the job postings, who can provide the on-the-job training, all of that. But it's really the trusted messenger that we need to help put that stool into work by sharing the information. Not just sharing the information, but also giving us feedback. And I use we like DDS, right? They need to know how this is working, what you need, what's not working, what would be better. So we really look to you all to be, you know, to be our sounding board. So we're doing it right and we're giving you what you need. So at the end of this, again, we'll be hoping that you'll go out and share this information, post on social media, however, you know, whatever channels you guys like to use, and then provide that feedback to us. And that could be, you know, pick up the phone and call me, call Shannon, Mary Pat. We're going to make our contact information available to you so we're easy to find. All right, let's get into it. So what is a DSP? I think many of you have worked with them, probably directly. But what we like to say is, the DSP is sort of this amazing role in that it encompasses a lot of different um, duties, right? And so it's not just helping someone, get dressed in the morning. It's the whole day that that person has. So in that, you're recognizing, that you're working with an individual, and each individual's needs are specific and different. And so the beauty of the DSP is to have the training, the knowledge to really work with an individual based on what they need. And so that means, understanding that they're a mentor, they're a facilitator, they might be a translator, they might be, transportation. There are a lot of different roles, and we're going to get into that. But it's really integral to this idea of folks being able to live independently in their communities, and DSPs are essential. Shannon, holler, jump in whenever you want. If I'm missing something, please. So what is a DSP? Not right. It's not a lot of these things. It's not a PCA. It's not a CNA. It's not an LPN. Right. They are specific. There are a lot of terms that are thrown around to describe a DSP by title. I think the state is trying to move towards a single term for ease of use and understanding. So let's talk about job descriptions and the types of employers. So the job classification, right, is to be part of a team that's doing this intensive programming for individuals. And supervision is received. These folks, when they start out, DSPs get training on the job. We're going to talk about that a lot. The types of employers, obviously community providers, also self-directed folks, right? Which you guys know very well, government agencies, etc. So there are a lot of places where DSPs can work. And then the other thing, and we'll talk about this more, is, once you're in the DSP position, there's a lot of places you can go with that, a lot of different career paths that you might take. And Shannon has some personal knowledge of that as well. Did you want to say something, Shannon?
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in and just talk a little bit, as now that we're getting into the job duties that a DSP will do. I started, I was a housekeeper, and I had a neighbor who was working at Southbury Training School. And at that point, they were really kind of in the same situation that the state is in now. They needed people. So they hired me, the housekeeper. And I ended up, it became my passion. I am here 40 years later. I enjoyed every moment of my career, doing direct care. I started on third shift. It evolved into different roles. I then transferred to first shift. I needed a job to pay my way through school. And here I am. It started initially as a summer temporary job. 40 years later, I'm still here. It's the longest summer job that one could ever have. And hopefully I will continue on for several more years. It's my passion. And I just have loved every role that I've had. And I'm just fell into it. And I'm just so happy that I was led down this path. And it started with a conversation with my neighbor, who was also an aide at the training school. And to be honest, I had no idea what a direct care, at the time we were direct care staff, was what they called us, did. So I think what's important for this group is that we get the word out to folks, because it's just word of mouth and just learning about it, because there's so many folks that don't even really know what a DSP is. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight, and hopefully we'll really get this going and get the word out and encourage people that had never even thought about this before.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a great story, and it's true of the commissioner too, of DDS. He started out as a DSP too. So, lots of different paths that you can take just by taking this initial step. So, what are some of the skills that a DSP needs to bring in, a candidate would need to bring to this job? It's really that interpersonal stuff, right? Good oral communication, knowing how to relate to people, how to develop sort of this positive relationship, being able to teach folks in a way that enables them to receive the information. All this, the training for the job happens on the job, which is one of the beauties of this career path. Typically folks have a high school diploma, and there's, because each individual is different, like there are tactics and tools that you'll be taught, but it's really being able to relate to people on an individual basis. That's a really important skill to bring to the job. Some candidates have, some employers have specific requirements for candidates. Some might need you to speak multiple languages, or have to be able to do sign language. Some might require a drug test. Some might require that you have your own transportation. So it really depends on the employer. Self-directed folks, same thing, may have different requirements for that role. So it really depends on who the employer is. But it is a physical role. It is a physical job, and you need to be able to, move physically in a way that can help folks get around. That's important for this job. Because the employers vary, the work environment can vary. So it could be in somebody's home, it could be a group home, it could be, a facility, and so it really depends on who's hiring. And again, it's physical. People might be required to lift or restrain someone, or know how to respond when someone might be upset or combative, etc. So again, these are all things that people learn. Tools and tricks of the trade that you'll be taught on the job.
There's a lot of training when supporting individuals that do have some behavioral challenges, and I've always found the training to be extremely useful to help to redirect, so you don't end up in the restraint or the power struggle. Yeah. So the training and the watching some of the coworkers and how they develop relationships with the folks that they're supporting is really useful. So right. Again, I just can't speak enough about the job and the training, just in terms of teaching how, the physical mechanics of lifting and using, a lot of folks use the Hoyer lifts or a barrier free or someone lift, or someone may just need a little support moving around. But through the training, they teach you extensively, how to not hurt yourself or the other person.
Right. I don't know if you can speak to this piece, Shannon, around the licensing piece. I think this depends on the employer, but I want to be clear.
For most private agencies that have operate group homes, they're licensed, and even the settings that aren't licensed, all the training that's listed here is encouraged. Right. Especially in the licensed facilities, the inspectors will look for this, but for the most part, this is a requirement for, once you're in and working to receive the training. And the training, like I said, is very useful and helpful. I mean, not only professionally, but also in your private life too. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Right. So again, more on the training, right? A lot of these are the things that you'll learn on the job. It's amazing. You know, I think knowing that you receive this information while you're working, while you're being supervised, while you're watching somebody else do it, it's just a great way to learn.
And also some additional trainings are very specific to the person. If
Right.
someone's using assisted technology or, you know, a very specific dining protocol. So there's a lot of training around those individual type programs.
Right. And how does that work, Shannon? How do you receive the training for a specific individual?
I'll just give you an example. So if you're working in a group home that has individuals that require a lot of support for health needs, usually the team will develop a plan with the appropriate professional, and they'll either do a group training or they'll do a one-on-one training, depending on what needs to be taught. Sometimes, for instance, if it's a very specific dining program for someone that has, you know, dysphagia, a choking issue,
Yeah.
the occupational therapist or speech therapist may watch the staff and show them, then watch them, and then periodically come in to check to make sure that it's still being implemented correctly. And that also gives you a time, you know, as the staff to ask the professional questions. It's, you know, a great learning opportunity, because who would have thought, you know, the different types of food consistencies. I never gave that much thought until I was in the field, you know, puree, chopped. There's so many things that, you know, you just don't think of that are needed to support our folks. So it's a great learning opportunity to be around the professionals and get that additional training.
Yeah. So, right. So the duties depend on the person you're working with and their specific needs. It's person-centered. And you may not have all of these skills when you start, but you will when you're done. So we could talk about the duties in buckets, and we don't need to read all of these. Again, we're going to share these slides with you, but I just want you to sort of see the breadth and width of the duties and how they sort of layer up. So, you know, advocacy, obviously advocating on behalf of the person that you are serving. And that can come in lots of different forms. They've got to navigate all kinds of systems, and that's what you know, that's what a DSP helps them do. There's assessment, right? Making sure that you're that this individual has goals. Are you meeting their goals? How are you assessing that along the way? And discussing those with your with the person you serve, and then those that you're working for. Behavioral support. And building and maintaining friendships and relationships. These are all things that DSPs are involved in. And it really comes down to that interpersonal stuff and really being able to communicate. Those are, you know, and caring. I think the people that go into this field already have a passion for caring for people. And that's really what this is about. Communication, and then you know, community inclusion, getting them out, and you know, being with friends or going to events, etc. This is all part of the duties. Crisis prevention, Shannon sort of touched on that a little bit. Documenting and reporting, you know, learning how to de-escalate, all of those good skills. Education, self-development, you know, I think I'm gonna mess up the quote. I have it at the end of the presentation that the commissioner made. Remind me what it is, Shannon. When you're teaching, you're learning. When you're giving,
When
you're
you're
getting.
giving, you're getting.
Yeah. I love that, and I think that is this job in a nutshell. Helping them manage their household, you know, cleaning, shopping, etc. Making sure that not just of their home, but of themselves. All of that is part of the role. helping people just understand, what their rights are, how they can make informed decision, teaching them how to do things for themselves. It's not just doing it for them, it's helping them learn and grow. Personal care assistance, and we've talked about that person-centered support. Supporting health and wellness, lots under that, right? Making sure that you're following all of the medical advice and treatment provided by physicians, making sure that that's being carried out appropriately, PT, diets, physical activity, etc. So you're
Just
starting
wanted to, oh, sorry.
I was just
No,
going to say, you're
just-
starting to see, like, it's a lot, but it's all about the person, and so it makes sense. Sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
No, just in terms of health and wellness and meeting with the practitioners that's are providing treatment, whether it's a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a therapist, they really rely on the direct support professionals because they know firsthand, they're working with the person day to day. They really can read the person. So I find that any practitioner will often turn to the direct care staff and ask the questions. If someone's nonverbal, they're really relying on you because you have that relationship and you're in there in the weeds of the job day to day, more so than maybe a nurse who's back from a distance, or a parent that's not with their loved one every day. So I find the medical practitioners really turn to the direct care staff to get feedback on the person and respect the role.
That's very interesting. Thank you. Makes total sense. Transportation, you might be required to transport the person. A lot of the providers, or some of the providers, have vans, etc., that they use. But for some folks, this might be part of the job. And then vocational educational support, helping them, get to their job, do their job, communicate with their employer, etc., really being that liaison. So I know that was a lot, but many of you are familiar with these roles. So I think it's surprising to see the long list of duties, but I think it's also why these key messages are going to be helpful as you go out in the community and talk about this. So what we have found, and we conducted a survey of providers to help us and guide us with some of this messaging, but really what we're finding that resonates with folks is, right, this idea that it's a meaningful and a fulfilling career. You're really making an impact on people's lives, and that's extremely rewarding. The other piece is it's a very flexible work schedule. So for a lot of folks, maybe it's somebody who has young children and doesn't want to, has specific hours they want to work. These folks require help 24/7. So there's always a place to fit in. There's also a lot of these, there's somebody in the IDD community in every community in the state. And so there, location wise, you can sort of take your pick, because certainly this work is going on everywhere. Some providers offer benefits like health insurance and a pension. And I think most importantly is this idea of being able to grow in the industry. It's, Shannon so beautifully talked about. And again, it's not just, going into, say, the DD world of healthcare, but, there's a lot of different places you can go with it. Maybe you decide you want to go more into the HR side of it. Maybe you want to go into the financial side of it. Like, it's just a great place to start. More messaging that we think will help you as you communicate about this. One of the things that we're trying to do is get in front of high schools and tech schools and places like that, to show them you know, that these jobs are out there. My understanding from Mary Pat is there's some 5,000 jobs that we're looking to fill. So, you know, it's an important, and it's a big, big group that we're trying to reach. And then it's important work. So we hope that you'll use this messaging. We think it resonates. And it will all be included in the toolkit that you'll get at the end.
I just wanted to speak a little bit about, I think there was a point in time when employees were, in other words, they were providers were only looking for people that had experience. But I think now with the shortage, that has opened up. So somebody like me, who is the housekeeper, or somebody who's the cashier, this is a great opportunity for them to get into a different type of work. And sometimes that's somebody's coming in with a background outside of the ID community, gives a provider the opportunity for a clean slate to train somebody the way they want them to be trained. And it's, I think sometimes we got stuck on that in the past. And I think, you know, the cashier or the waitress, I know some providers have hired wait staff when they've brought individuals to restaurants and have seen how the wait staff interacts, and they're like pulling them over on the side and say, hey, you know, you want a job with us. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're out there promoting this.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that is very helpful. And I think that's right. Yeah. There are some challenges, right? It's like we said, it's a physical job. You know, it can be long hours. It depends on the individual and the provider. So these are just some of the things that folks have identified as challenges to filling these positions. So it's important to go into it knowing that.
We look forward to seeing you at our support groups, other workshops, visit our Facebook page. And thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for Carter and Shannon, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.